And good evening, councillors, officers, and a rather large gallery. It must be getting close to Christmas time. To open the meeting, I'll invite the General Manager to make announcements regarding the live streaming of this evening's meeting.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and public. The meeting is being live streamed and or recorded for on-demand viewing via Council's website. Attendance at the meeting is to be taken as a consent by a person to their image and or voice being webcast. All speakers should refrain from making any defamatory comments or releasing personal information about another individual without their consent. Council accepts no liability of any damage that may result from defamatory comments made by persons attending meetings. All liability will rest with the individuals who made the comments. The meeting must not be recorded by others without prior written consent of Council in accordance with Council's Code of Meeting Practice. Councillors and staff are obligated to declare conflicts of interest as required under the Local Government Act 1993 and Council's adopted Code of Conduct. Councillors are reminded of their oath of office, whereby they have declared and affirmed that they will undertake the duties of the office of councillor in the best interest of the people of Wentworth Shire and Wentworth Shire Council, and they will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested in them under the Local Government Act or any other act to the best of their ability and judgment.
Thank you, General Manager. I'll now invite those who are able and willing to stand and will read the prayer and acknowledgement of country. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we live and work and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Please bless us with the courage to work together as a united, supportive and resilient team bound by a shared sense of purpose and a commitment to excellence. May our teamwork reflect your boundless love, grace and wisdom. Help us to communicate openly, listen attentively and value each other's perspectives. Thank you. Are there any apologies or applications for leave of absence? We have a leave of absence noted at the last meeting for Councillor Weenie. Councillor Elstone.
1st of February to the 21st of February.
Thank you. Anything further? Someone like to move that we accept the apologies? Councillor Armstrong and seconded Councillor Rodder. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Are there any disclosures of interest? Thank you. Move to item 5. Confirmation of minutes. So moved, Councillor Nichols, the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 20th of November, seconded by Councillor Rodder. Any discussion? Those in favour of adopting the minutes? Thank you, that's carried unanimously. Are there any outstanding matters from previous meetings? There being none, I'll ask that someone move us into the public forum, please. Councillor Armstrong.
Move us in the public forum.
Oh, thank
Sorry.
you. No. Seconder, Councillor Rodder. All those in favour? Thank you. Okay. Advise we have a number of speakers this evening to speak to items 9.14, 9.16 and 9.17. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak. I'll time that. Then there'll be a period of questions from councillors only to the speaker, and when we get to the other items we're going to alternate the order of those in favour and those against the item. We'll begin with Mr Monaghan speaking in favour of item 9.14, and if you'd be happy to address the chamber from the head of the table. Thank you.
Good afternoon, councillors. Thanks for your time today. I'm referring to a DA application in today's agenda, DA 2024061. The objective to replace existing jetty damaged in the flood in 2022 and is now unsafe. Current refusals come on the grounds of fisheries, perhaps misinterpreting the request for a replacement fixed jetty structure, not a floating pontoon. Point 1. Successful permission has been granted from Crown Lands, RMS, and Wentworth Council has found in their DA assessment so far the proposal satisfies the points for consideration listed under Section 4.15 of the Environmental and Planning Assessment Act. The proposal is consistent with Wentworth Shire's Development Control Plan. Point 2. Refusal of structure type. New South Wales Fishery has refused on the basis of a floating pontoon that is larger than 8.6 square metres. Possible misinterpretation of the development is factored it's a fixed height jetty, including 1 metre of the jetty on the bank, making the proposed jetty 8.4 square metres over the water. The design of the jetty has been designed to suit the underwater bank profile and the conditions within the weir pool. The jetty houses an irrigation pump suction under our current works licence. Point 3. Light penetration over the water. The 2013 guidelines of the policy states proposals for jetties, wharfs and similar structures should be incorporated design features to reduce the effects of shadowing of marine and freshwater vegetation where present. The policy looks to protect the marine vegetation from the impacts of shadowing. In this location, there is no marine vegetation and the jetty is 30 centimetres above the water and is made of aluminium mesh decking, which allows full light penetration. In conclusion, New South Wales Fisheries have refused to issue GTAs based on a floating pontoon, where in fact we're looking to replace it with a fixed height jetty. The proposed jetty development adheres to Fisheries' own guidelines and policies 2013. There is no likely impacts from the proposed jetty as discussed in Council's DA assessment report, and the impacts to fish and the underwater environment have been assessed as per Fisheries' request. We've invested a lot of time and money engaging experts, geotechnical engineers, structural engineers and environmental practitioners, and applied for consent to the authorities with the aim to replace the jetty to suit both the environmental and the structural requirements. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Gary.
If I can, Mr. Mayor, can I just ask, have you had this debate with Fisheries?
Yes, so we've engaged Green Environment, Chris Alderton out of Adelaide. So they've
And their
sent it in
response
twice.
is unchanged?
Yeah, so their first response we had in our design a floating pontoon. So then we redesigned the jetty with the fixed structure, which is currently a fixed structure there now, and they just sent it back as per the first request. So that's where we think that they didn't look at the second proposal.
Righto. Thank you. Any other questions for Gary? Thank you very much. All right. Item 9.16. I'll invite James to open the batting order on this item. So we're going to go one in favour, one against.
So, Mr. Mayor, we're going with the dwelling proposal first up.
Yes, we'll deal with both separately.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Mr. Mayor and councillors, for the opportunity to present this afternoon to council. As you've seen with the application, it's for a dwelling, a two-bedroom dwelling that includes open area kitchen, bathroom, etc. Largely the same as other dwellings that are located at the airport. Within this area, there are 8 lots. The other 7 lots have a dwelling. And there has been a number of objections lodged against the proposal. We benefit from a building information certificate that's been issued by council in relation to the proposal in terms of it being compliant with the building code. And I suppose what we urge councillors to consider in relation to this proposal is to consider, I suppose, the factual basis of the application. And that is its compliance with not only the Environmental Planning Assessment Act, but also the zone, the fact that a dwelling is permissible within the zone. And what we say also is that the objections that have been lodged to the proposal are in fact vexatious, and we don't believe that the objections have been lodged with merit, in that they have not raised any amenity impact of the proposal which is required against the Environmental Planning Assessment Act. What we say is that the proposal is consistent with the Act, and that those issues that are supposed to have been provided under 4.15 of the Act have not been considered. In any case, the proposal is consistent with the zone and the Act, and also the Development Control Plan and the LEP, the Wentworth LEP. So what we say, I suppose, is that the facts must be relied upon, and the facts say that the proposal really is worthy of merit and support, as recommended by the officer's recommendation within the council report. So we commend that recommendation, and happy to take any questions from councillors.
Thanks, Mr. Goldsworthy. Any questions, please? Thank you. Thanks, James. I'll now invite our second speaker, Mr. Jeff Woodruff, who will be speaking against item 9.16.
Thank you, Council. In objecting to this development, we have to take into consideration the Development Control Plan, which supplements the LEP, and the LEP then, the Development Control Plan states that the object of the zoning of a residential development allotment was in actual fact passed with that DCP forming part of the LEP, and was therefore in regulation, and the conditions of that DCP, that the Development Control Plan, have to be adhered to. You can't simply then turn and put in a prohibited activity, a commercial activity, on the residential allotment. Unfortunately, Council have heard 3 times with regards to development applications that have now been passed by Council that are against the LEP. 3 development plans over the last 5 years. Lot 6 is one of them, and that lot 6, with development application number 2019-163, was given approval by delegated authority and allows for commercial activity to turn and on lot 6. We've been chasing Council for 5 years to get an answer from the legality of being able to have commercial activity going across residential allotments, and have failed to get a response. This on lot 1 makes the 3rd time that has happened. It has to turn and be resolved. If the only way that it can be resolved is through the Land Environment Court, then we should turn and go back to that. The Land Environment Court ruled that the development application of 2023-102 was prohibited because it was a commercial activity, and the DA was surrendered. Work continued from July until December, when the Building Information Certificate was issued. Work was carried out with Council's knowledge, without a development application, to get this thing through Council, against the LEP, the Land Environment Plan, and against the LEC, the Land Environment Court. It was surrendered. How can it continue to turn and take place? Now, the new development applications, both DA 115 and 116, are a repeat of the development application that was surrendered in the Land Environment Court. It has the same outcome, a commercial activity being conducted on a residential allotment, and should not be turned and passed by Council. It should be investigated.
Thank you, Jeff. Just see if there's anyone has any questions for you, Mr. Woodruff. If there's any questions, please, councillors. Right, thanks very much.
Right.
Okay, next speaker speaking for item 9.16 is Mr. Hazeldine. Thanks, Ian.
Mr Mayor, councillors and Wentworth Shire staff, I'm here to speak in support of items 916 and 917, which are development applications for an existing dwelling at 130A Renmark Road and existing hangars and transport depot. I'm a landowner resident at the airpark, and I'm also a representative of the Sunraysia Sports Aircraft Club and a local business owner. As a resident of the airpark, where this development is, neither of these developments has had any impact on our quality of living. Even at construction stage, there was no undue noise or interruptions. Living in the airport vicinity, you naturally expect aircraft hangars and other aviation-related activities. In fact, the reason we moved here was to see, hear and be involved in the various aviation activities. Not everyone is able to experience the thrill of having a helicopter or unusual plane land practically in their backyard, and would suggest that this is not something you enjoy. You shouldn't live at the airport. As a representative of the SSAC, who own land and hangars directly adjoining the development on the east side, we have 51 members who are all in full support of these applications. The club has worked hard to attract the Sports Aircraft Association of Australia to Wentworth, having hosted their Ozfly event earlier this year. Plans are well underway for their next event in March 2025. This is due in large part to the owners of this development who have made their hangar and residence space available. This is shaping up to be one of the biggest events on the Wentworth calendar, and the SAAA are looking favourably towards making Wentworth their permanent base. The outcome of this application may well influence their final decision of the SAAA. As a local business owner, Darling Junction Motoring, I know that this type of development is important to the survival of local business and the economy of a small town. The Ozfly event held earlier this year was a great boost to business, and we are looking forward to the next event being even bigger. The aim is to fill all the accommodation this side of the river and to ensure that all local eating establishments get patronage by restricting hours that food and drink are available at the airport, so visitors need to dine in the town. We've also today found out that there will be an operational paddle boat in Wentworth for that weekend to further boost tourism opportunities. If this event can be secured in Wentworth, there will be many other spin-off events. The other small enterprises that will be attracted to the airport precinct are therefore into the Wentworth Shire. I've spoken to the majority of airpark residents, all of whom are very supportive of the development. These people are annoyed that they are misrepresented as belonging to the airport landowners group, which is incorrect, and this so-called group is merely a couple of disgruntled objectors with undisclosed agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Hazeldine.
Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have questions for Ian? Thank you very much.
No worries.
Okay, we're going to move to our second speaker against item 9.16, Mel Hupfield, please.
Hi there, Mel Hupfield. Just my interest in both these items, and I'll talk to 115 first, is my parents have one of the residential lots, the number 7, or the block that's there. It's interesting that some of the items and responses so far have started to become a little personal. Words such as vexatious and disgruntled, I think, are not really helpful. What I sort of use my time to talk to is around the dwelling itself. Now, the original outcome that was put forward under the original proposal, it was an office, it wasn't a dwelling. It's only since the change to the development approval that the purpose of this building has now been changed to a dwelling. So I have to take it as read that the applicants for this, for 115, will use that item, that facility as a dwelling, as opposed to some sort of office or commercial activity. that was the question that was in my mind when I put my objection forward, to try and clarify and to make sure the council is aware and provides the appropriate restrictions if the development approval is to go ahead for this particular facility, that it's very clear that it should be for a residential outcome and a residential purpose. I fear that the building will be used for personnel that will be involved in a commercial activity that's related to the development approval for 116. So those two provide some of the links that's there. Overall, I think what's important to me is the way the council represents for community engagement in these sort of facilities. It's important that you represent for all people. Yes, I'll be spending a lot more time here. My parents are elderly and I'll be taking over their block. I intend to spend more time in Wentworth. It's an attractive place and I'd like to keep it that way, and I encourage the council to consider this for those purposes. This isn't about avoiding noise. It's not about avoiding aircraft operating on the airfield at all. That's what we do all want to do. That's what we're passionate about. But when you now start to mix within a residential environment aspects of commercial activities, that complicates what we're all trying to do on that particular area of land. And I would encourage that there's areas set aside at the eastern end of the airfield that are certainly being foreshadowed for commercial purposes, and that would be a better place for facilities such as I see coming here. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Mel. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very much. We'll have our third speaker in favour of item 9.16, Mr. Bryce Walsh, please.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, thanks for the opportunity to speak today on 9.16, and I'm going to cover 9.17. Bryce Walsh, I'm here myself as a resident, family that are residents at the aerodrome and the Twin Rivers Air Park development on Lot 2, further along from Phase 1. The aerodrome's upgrade to a sealed or weather facility has created great opportunities, and these two applications align with the established mix of residential and aviation activity that's already there at the aerodrome. For DA 2024-115, simply to allow an existing building to be used as a home, consistent with zoning and the neighbouring properties. And for DA 2024-116, this ensures that hangars can be used effectively, just as there's houses and hangars on the other neighbouring properties that combine residential and aviation uses. Unfortunately, some of the negativity in the community and uncertainty around development applications like these discourages people from considering Wentworth as a place to invest, grow or live. It does nothing to support either general aviation or the wider Wentworth community, and ironically potentially reduces the value of their assets and other assets in the area. Approving these applications sends a positive message that Wentworth's open to progress. And once decided, it may also be time to consider rezoning the entire precinct to reflect the mixed uses that are already happening here and allow for future opportunities that will benefit everyone. The aerodrome has the potential to drive economic growth and enhance the community. Supporting these applications is an important step in realising that potential. Thanks for your time, and hope you guys will get this approved.
Thank you, Bryce. Anyone have any questions for Bryce? Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our final speaker speaking against item 9.16 is Mrs. Wrong Raven.
My name is Rong Raven. Thank you, the council gave me a chance to talk about this issue. And I'm just introduced. We are the lot 3, and this application is lot 1. So from us to the lot 1 is only 55 meters. I think shorter than from here to the river bank. That's why if you think your family in that situation, what you should do. That is from my personally. But I don't believe in Australia there has any law allowed flying school in the residential area. And so I think the council know that. That's why from beginning, council made the line. This part is residential and that part is a commercial area. So flying school, we don't against flying school, but in the wrong place. You should go to the commercial area. In that case, council can control them. What activity? Now in the residential area, you have lost your control. And the council, when you go to the land, you can say, whenever people put business sign in residential area, you look at their land. You look, someone is really couldn't say. And my land, because we want to live there for my rest of life, we made a sustainable living. We got a tree. It's a beautiful place. And people coming to visit us. So that is, I think, the council wanted to do, present Wentworth. And because the council put a lot of money, that's why council should have a hand to control what's happening in here. And from now on, it's the 5th time I said no. This is the 4th time we say no. And this time we need to say no. Because in the one block, one people owned, why they separate in 2 parts? I don't really understand this. And I thought that because that against Wentworth Council's development plan, and the council should react in the front, stop this, and let them move. Not us put in the front to fight. And you can see that's a majority of residents here against this. And we have been here 20 years. We are carefully plan our land, carefully living, enjoy. And it's really damaged most of the residential here. And why the council need to do this? Think your plan, think the people here, what we are feeling, So that is, we said. And I find seems a lot of effort put on here because I believe that is residential land. That's for residential, not for business, commercial.
Thanks, Mrs. Raven.
Yeah.
That's just a jot over 3 minutes.
Thank
Notice
you.
you're on the next speaking list, so if there's anything you need to clarify further, you can do it on the next item. Is there any questions for Ms. Raven?
Because my English is secondary. That's why if anyone don't understand my talking, you can ask.
Yes, we have opportunity to ask. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Alright, thank you.
Thanks very much. We're going to move on to item 9.17, and again, to kick off the batting order there, I'll invite Mr. James Goldsworthy, who will be speaking in favour of 9.17. Thanks, James.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Previously, I indicated that the council must stick to the facts in making a decision on this matter, on both the matters. And the facts of the matter are that this is not a residential area, not a rural residential area. It's actually land that is zoned primary production and can have many different activities and uses undertaken on the land with the consent of council. The proposal that we have before council in this particular matter is for a transport depot, and that is something that the applicant has sought legal advice about its permissibility, and that legal advice has confirmed the permissibility, and we understand that council has also sought similar legal advice which concurs with that of ours. The proposal is for the parking of aeroplanes. It's a transport depot. It's not a flying school. It's not anything else. So it's in fact a depot. If you hear anything to the contrary, that's incorrect, and you need to rely upon the application and the council agenda, which defines what the proposal is. And that transport depot is permissible within the zone. So council need to consider what the amenity impacts of the proposal are to the surrounding locality and whether or not that is acceptable. And when considering those impacts, council must consider the context of the locality, and that is the such that we're within an airport, essentially. We're next door to an airport. There are planes going past every day, and there is the general aviation area there. In terms of the consistency and the definition, there is the opportunity for conditions to be applied to the consent, and that deals with compliance matters. So council have heard that there are concerns from the residents about compliance as to what the actual use will be undertaken on the land, and we will only have, if council agrees, consent for a transport depot. If it is used for an office, if it is used for a flying school, if it is used for anything else, council are obliged to undertake compliance activities in relation to the proposal to ensure that the activity is consistent with the consent. The Environmental Planning and Assessment Act requires that objectors need to state how they'll be affected by the proposal, and council need to consider that against 4.15. I don't believe that council will hear today, and certainly have not heard so far, how the objectors are affected by the proposal from an amenity basis, and council are obliged to consider that amenity basis. So we've applied for a transport depot. We don't believe that there are any amenity impacts. The council officers have recommended approval. They've indicated that there are no amenity impacts, and compliance is able to be taken through enforcement proceedings by council. So we commend the officers' recommendation once again.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have questions for Mr. Goldsworthy on this issue? Councillor Rodder.
So, in regards to the developmental application, so I see in the draft conditions of consent, there's no mention of a consent, a condition whereby no home office can be set up in that facility. So it's not out of the realm of possibility, according to what I read here, for an office to be set up in home. You can.
We haven't applied in either application for an office. We've applied only for
that's
a dwelling.
right. There's plenty of homes that have home offices.
Well, if anything can be undertaken from the land without consent, that can be the case. Whether or not a home office can be undertaken on the land without consent, I haven't done the investigations in relation to that, but that would apply equally to this land as any other parcel of land, and there are possibly other home offices being undertaken on other parcels of land within this general area in any case.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Rodder. Any further questions? Thank you, Mr. Goldsworthy. Our next speaker will be speaking against item 9.17, Mr. Jeff Woodruff.
Again, thank you, Council, and as I've turned, in my last comments, might have had a bit of an overlap on the objections, because I was referring to 115 only rather than 116 as well. The conditions that Mr. Goldsworthy talks about, and he got rather confused with the two allotment numbers of 819579 and his interpretation relating to that particular area, and 870517, which is the 8 blocks in question. Now, if it was permissible, it would have been allowable through the Land Environment Court, but they turned and pulled their development consent because they knew it was failing, because it was a commercial activity. And the definition of a depot is where machinery is kept for distribution for service, so that it goes out of that particular hangar and is servicing a commercial activity. If as Mr. Hupfield Turner said earlier, that if the residents of the dwelling were in actual fact employees of the people in the depot, then his work would in actual fact be, to go to work at the depot his place of employment and offer, a business activity. So a commercial airline pilot would be one person that would not be allowable in that residence. But as Mr. Goldsworthy also turned and said, that a home office could be established at a later date. We've got on lot, and we mentioned it earlier with the DA 2019163 on lot 6, where it's advertising a fiberglass manufacturing business. Please tell me when council turned and gave them approval to turn and have a fiberglass manufacturing business turn and established. That's on lot 6. Lot 7 is advertising, that aircraft and motor vehicles stored on that allotment do so at the owner's own risk. And that's advertised on their front gate. Is that a commercial activity? And the distribution of aircraft from the commercial hangar on lot 1, for a commercial activity, whether the aircraft is registered in the name of Banshaw Proprietary Limited or in the name of an individual, if it's being used for a commercial activity, it is a commercial activity. It can't be anything else. And therefore, if council have to turn and have, as Mrs. Raven said, an area for residential allotments for private use with access to the airfield for private flight, which is in the DCP, then there should be an area for commercial activity, but there should not be mixed with the two of them.
Thank you, Jeff, on that point. We'll now, if there's any questions, and sorry, Councillor Crisp, I've neglected to look up in the top corner of the screen, so if you have any questions, you might have to chime in. You do have one.
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff? All right, thank you very much. Okay, next speaker, please. Speaking in favour of item 9.17, Ian Hazeldean.
Mr. Mayor, councillors, Wentworth Shire staff, I've pretty much summarised everything in my previous address. We talk a lot here about compliance. Now, if you look up RU1 on Mr. Google, all these things fall under RU1. It's the operation that is in doubt. We talk about compliance. There's a lot of other activities happening on the airport there. What's considered to be commercial, what's considered not to be commercial is a very interesting line. And if we're going to delve into that, I think some of the objectors should need to take a look in their own backyard. We have other activities happening there that are bordering on the line of being a commercial activity. I can't see how you can single out one against the other. If we're going to go down that path, I think the council needs to have a big overview of the whole area. And if it's going to be residential, a lot of these other activities all need to be stopped. That's about all I've got to say on the matter.
Thanks very much, Mr. Hazeldean. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you for that.
No worries.
Righto. Next up, we'll have, please, Mr. Mel Hupfield again to speak against item 9.17.
Yeah, councillors, thanks very much again. To me, this is not adding any clarity for me in terms of the governance and accountability around these particular issues. I think the question of commercial activities should be reviewed if that's the case across all of these areas. My parents bought this lot as a freehold lot for the reasons of residential under the zoning that was apparent to them when they purchased the lot. That's my understanding for those lots that are around there. The impact for a residential plot compared to a commercial plot, particularly when we're talking, as an example, the circumstances for this DA 116, a transport depot would imply a lot more aircraft, a lot more traffic, a lot more other activities. And when there's a shared easement along the residential strips, then you get a lot more disturbance from those types of activities and influence and disruption to your own lifestyle when you're on what you perceive is a residential lot. So we're seeing that being challenged for this particular example, DAA 116. Next door to my parents' block is another property that is now being further extended, and looks to me it's for leasing. And I think Mr. Woodruff explained that, allowing for aircraft and vehicles to be stored there. So that once again increases that to a commercial level of activity that's beyond what you would deem is reasonable for a residential location. Indeed, further across on the west, I understand that the people developing there have been directed by the council to actually include items that are about tourism and commercial activities. I would also ask a question that there's a sign now that's outside the particular lot in question here that says Ram Air Services. That to me would denote a commercial activity as opposed to just a transport depot or somewhere to store aircraft. I think there's sufficient reasons to question the recommendations that have been put forward for the councillors to consider this particular case. The words around LEP, BIC, DCP, DA, all very confusing to me, and I think that needs to be put in and taken into stock and stick to the facts. I think that was mentioned before. The definitions around primary production and residential have been mixed and crossed, and the original intent, from my understanding, for the lots that we're talking about in question here were residential lots, and that now has been blurred, and the definitions have been extrapolated to now include this language of primary production. My question is, what's the council's intent here? Residential zoning should be residential zoning. Commercial lots are down the other end, and that's where council gets their revenue, by leasing commercial lots as opposed to allowing commercial benches to be placed on residential lots.
Thanks very much. Thank you, Mel. Any questions, please? Yes, Councillor Evans.
Mr. Hupfield, your experience in aviation, who steps up there?
I was the Chief of Air Force.
Yes.
Before I retired. I now live in Maria, and I'll be time sharing between here and Maria. I am leasing a plot at Maria to build a hangar in Maria, and that is a commercial lease. And they have a development plan, and they very clearly defined residential lots and commercial lots, so that we don't get any confusion around this. And that's why I say this is about governance and accountability on decisions that the council takes when there's a lot of confusion that's already been that has resulted in the Land Environmental Court taking this particular case on its merits and then making a ruling against the DAs that were originally put in place. So that's what I'm basing my use of the land.
Thank you. My question was your experience in other airfields, and you just answered the question beautifully. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Hupfield, you mentioned the easement access in your discussion there. Given this lot is the easternmost lot on the easement, and all traffic to access the airside area would go from those lots to the east, how much impact do you think this will actually have on the amenity of that easement for the other users?
Well, if they use any of that easement for that purpose, then it will be disruptive. But the neighbours that are immediately next door, I also would represent for them to say that that's an example of where that easement is now questioned from a residential perspective. And I highlight it to say that if this is approved and occurs for this lot, it allows and opens the door for other lots that are already existing that are starting to develop. As was raised by my colleague earlier, there's other lots next door to my lot that are on the edge that now impacts me in those areas. So this is a waterfall effect that's now just becoming, it will become more commonplace, and it will cause more disturbances to the original intent of residential lots. So this particular one is away from my lot, but this is just the example of where it's impacting across all of them.
Thank you. I have a question, Mr. Hupfield. I think what you've introduced is an argument around amenity. So it's in a similar vein to Councillor Armstrong. So all aircraft, my understanding is, are moving from west to east to then get onto the taxiway. So are you suggesting that one particular hangar is going to be problematic to amenity, but the others aren't? What makes this particular one more or different in terms of its impact? Given that it is to the east of
the size of the hangars, obviously they've been built without a development approval. Yes, they have a BIC that's been provided, but those hangars are huge.
Yeah,
so the volume of aircraft that can go in those will impact all of the blocks along there and the number of the amount of aircraft traffic that's in and on the airfield.
Yeah, so I think the other speakers, or might have been yourself even, sorry if I've mischaracterised your earlier remarks, mentioned that part of the reason for living on an aerodrome is the excitement of aircraft and so on. So again, I'm just trying to drill down as to what makes the amenity of one hangar and residence a problem and another depot and residence not a problem.
Only the outcome of the residential nature of that one area and how that translates to all the other residential lots.
Yeah, so the residential lots you speak of, it's all RU1, and the dwellings are within an RU1 zone, dwellings with consent. So it's not a residential.
So my view is that this is bordering on, if not a commercial activity, and if that is now what's agreed to in that block, and that can then be extended to all the others, which is where it's starting to head, then that level of activity is above what is would be expected in residential lots on an airfield. I'll use an example of Temora, where they have an air park or an air estate, which was the initial intent of this particular location.
Yep.
That is fly neighbourly. It's the rate of flying, one person, one lot, one aeroplane or a couple of aeroplanes, that's it on each residential block, compared to having a transport depot that's right next to you that can be more disruptive. I'm not saying I don't mind the sound of aircraft, but there is a limit to how much you want when you want to live actually on the field and operate and be disrupted by other activities.
Yeah.
That are
sorry, final point, sorry to labour the point, but my understanding is from lot 3 you'll have 5 to your west, and every time an aircraft does a movement they're going to come past, whereas from lot 1 no aircraft will go past lot 3.
That's right, I can't dispute that, absolutely.
No worries, thanks. Has anyone got any further questions for Mr. Hupfield? Thanks very much. Our next speaker will be speaking in favour of 9.17. Mr. Bryce Walsh, please.
All right, so I covered this in my last address, but there's hangars on almost every lot in that phase 1 there. Why is this any different? And it would appear that some of these objectors would rather live in the past with a smaller gravel aerodrome rather than moving towards the future. The aerodrome's been upgraded. We should be promoting development on the aerodrome. And that's where I sit.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Walsh. Any further questions while you have opportunity? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, our final speaker will be Mrs. Wrong Raven again, and you'll be speaking against item 9.17.
Thank you to let me speak again. And I thought it's a lot of argument for that. It's commercial or residential. What can we do in the residential area? So that is need to clarify by council. But when we bought this land, we were told that's residential, and we set up, we plant trees, we plant things. We are happy about that. But now I know the development is commercial, and I know the council has a lot of pressure want development commercial thing, and but that is your duty. When you do this, you think originally you plan, and you should be able to control. This is one thing. Another thing is that is a majority people. If you upset us and to benefit new coming, they are new coming few years. They want development clearly commercial, earn money, and that is the balance. And I saw the council, you should keep your originally plan, and you have heaps land in this side, and I know the army some museum will build there, and that is you clearly said is commercial, and why all the commercial area should be this side and be controlled. Otherwise, you can see this argument will continue. Even you approve this, continue, we will not go back, because that's our right. We need to keep our right, our living quality, and I keep this council permission, and we will fight. And I don't believe Australian government will allow a flying school in residential area. This is one thing. Another thing is, I forgot what should I say, but I said you have a duty, you have a right, and which party you should protect, and how can balance. This your council need to do, not let us to do. You should find out what you say and what you should keep. And we trust the council should protect us, and we are 20 years resident here. And it's not we close business. We like our Wentworth development, but in the control, in the framework, in the right place. It's not business people promise we give this. What did they give council? They paid is residential rate, and they are doing business. How can council control that?
Thank you, Mrs. Raven. Does anybody have any questions before you go?
You should find out how, if in the commercial area, how much council can get. In the residential area, you are very limited.
Thank you. Yes, I heard that one. Now, I have a question, Mrs. Raven. Twice now you've mentioned flying school. I'm just wondering what flying school you're referring to.
Flying school, in the lot 1, that is flying school. And there has a big signs point the driveway. It's flying service and flying school. I think they all in the same thing, because that from beginning, when they put the approval, they said that's flying school. They will do how much training, how much they will do.
Yeah, sorry, I was just casting my mind back. We had a debate probably 12 months ago or more about an actual flying school that wanted to use the aerodrome, and council made a decision at that time, but just wanted to clarify.
Oh, no, that's international one, huh? You are talking international flying school?
Yes, I was just wondering whether that's what you were referring to. But
well, I tell you, if people live there, they don't know the flying on the sky is international or not international. That mention me, you know the local people how against to development of flying school. Their animal is a complaint too. So you know that is not very, local people not happy.
thank you. Any further questions? No. All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Raven, and thanks to all speakers for a very respectful public forum. Okay, that concludes the public forum. I'll ask somebody to please move that we resume the ordinary meeting. Councillor Armstrong.
Now I move that we resume standing orders for the meeting.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Elstone. All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. We'll move to item 7.1, mayoral report. I will move that and seek a seconder. Thanks, Councillor Rodder. Can I just say it's been a delight to attend various school functions, and I wish all the students every success as they move higher into their education, and to those who are moving on to tertiary education or employment, I wish them all the best. Can I also mention that not included in this report, but on Saturday night I attended the Wentworth Military Collection Christmas function and received on behalf of Council some recognition certificates, and wish the Wentworth Military Collection all the success in 2025 as they pursue a very ambitious plan for their museum. I just got back from Terrell, or from Burke last night, visited with community members and Councillor Armstrong. That was a very informative visit with the NDBA and other water agencies, where we inspected the Terrell National Park and gained a lot of insights and understanding in terms of how the water management is conducted there. Are there any questions? If not, we will move along. Thank you. Oh, sorry. All those in favour of accepting the report? Unanimous. Thank you. Item 8.1. The reports from committees. We have the Audit, Risk and Improvement and the recommendation is to endorse. I'll seek a mover, please. Councillor Starrick, seconded Councillor Rotter. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Anyone against? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to item 9, which is item 9.1, General Manager's Report. I have a mover, please. Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Rotter. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Against? A question? All those in favour?
Sorry,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor. No, it's fine actually. No, I had a question, but it's all right. I don't need to ask.
Thank you for your almost question.
Almost. Sorry about that embarrassment.
Okay, all those in favour? Sorry, I've got to remember to look at you, Councillor Crisp. Make sure I see a hand. Thank you very much. That's carried unanimously. Item 9.2, a change of meeting date. We have a recommendation there to move the ordinary council meeting scheduled for 19th February 25 to the 12th of February 25. Councillor Starrick has moved. Seconder, Councillor Evans. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Anyone against? All those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. The Australia Day Awards. This is an exciting one, 9.3. Okay, so we have received nominations for a number of categories, and Council is now going to determine the individual award recipients by secret ballot. So I'll invite the General Manager. Well, first of all, I'll seek a mover and seconder. That's what we do. Councillor Rotter, seconded Councillor Elstone. And thanks to all the members of the community, if any are listening, who take the time and the effort to propose nominees for these very prestigious awards. Thank you. I presume we're handling Councillor Crisp via secret email. Thanks, councillors. Thanks, General Manager. Now, having duly voted, I'm sure we're going to vote in favour of this recommendation, but if I could ask for those in favour. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Another exciting one. Item 9.4, request for sponsorship, Sport Aircraft Association of Australia Ausfly 2025 event. I'll just remind councillors that it was a very successful event held this year, and I think in particular for many in the community, the performance by the Freedom Formation was absolutely exceptional. And I think with a little more tweaking of the marketing, we could get triple or quadruple the number of spectators. Could I have a mover, please?
Yes, I'll move.
Councillor Evans, seconded Councillor Elstone.
What are you moving?
Yep, that's a very good.
Yes, I reckon.
Mr. Mayor, might I suggest that under conclusion, part A is what I if like to amend the motion to be part A, which I will read to you if you wish.
Yes, thanks, Councillor Crisp.
I move an amendment to the motion that
Sorry,
we
it's not,
approve.
sorry, it's not an amendment. You just can move that as the motion.
Okay, then I move that council approve $25,000 of sponsorship and in-kind support towards the 2025 Osfly event on the proviso an event acquittal is completed and council is included in any promotional material for the event.
Thank you. Is the motion seconded?
Just to clarify, councillor, did you say 25,000 plus the in-kind support?
And as written there.
Yes,
And in-kind support.
Yeah, so as well as the 25. Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Yeah. Okay. So we got fighting for the seconder. Are you happy with that, Councillor Nichols? Seconded, Councillor Nichols. Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Does anyone wish to speak against? Councillor Crisp. Speaking for.
Just as a point of clarification, elsewhere in the papers there was a split up between how the 25,000 was a cash and in kind. Perhaps the general manager can assist in where that appears. It may appear elsewhere in the papers, but in framing that I was of the view that it was cash and kind in the 25,000. But Ken, can you confirm that, please?
I can confirm that.
Thank you.
Righto. Does anyone have any further questions for the clarification? We're going to put the motion as articulated by Councillor Crisp. All those in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 9.5, Goldwell Primary School request for financial assistance, and we have a recommendation to provide in-kind support to the value of $2,764 for the 2025 Goldwell Country Fair. Moved Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Starrick. Does anybody wish to speak to the motion? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.6, the monthly finance report for November 2024. I'll seek a motion, please. Moving as written.
As written.
Thanks, Councillor Armstrong. Seconded by Councillor Rodder. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Nichols with a question.
Please, could I ask that we've got $951,526.33 outstanding additional water costs. Is that rather large?
No, that's what's been added during the year.
So it's continuing on?
Yep.
So what action?
No, so that's that's what we started out with. When we did the initial rate run, we levied that.
Yep.
Since the start of July, we've since then also levied an additional $900,000 in water charges. So it's not outstanding.
Thank you. Councillor Starrick with a question.
Just a question. When are the next lot of instalments due?
There were some due at the end of November, so the next one will be due at the end of February.
Councillor Elstone.
Just to direct the young public, 50,000 in figures on council roads, a lot of that Arumpo.
Yeah, almost all of those which is the externally funded.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Elstone. Anything further? Councillor Starrick.
The overtime on the water and wastewater, was that in relation to the break at the end of November?
Those for that period. So we had 5 water main breaks, after hours water main breaks. We had major pump station electrical faults at Wentworth Raw Water pump station, and we had major pump faults at sewer pump station 1, which is the major sewer pump station in Baronga, which necessitated a number of after hours work to swap and change over pumps. So there's a couple of major after hours.
Of that question, please, can I ask where the 5 breaks occurred? What locality?
I haven't got the specific locality. I've just got the number of.
So you can't say Wentworth, Golgol, Birrell.
I can get that information, but I don't have it on me.
Thanks, Councillor Nichols. Anything further? Put the motion. Those in favour? Councillor Crisp. Frozen.
Can't see those. Can't see his hand.
Still going. The fan's moving around in the top there.
Sorry, Councillor Crisp, are you voting? Thank you. Carried unanimously. Item 9.7, the monthly investment report for the month of November 2024. Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Armstrong. Anyone have any questions on this one? Thank you. I'll move the motion. Those in favour? Thanks. Carried unanimously. Okay, item 9.8, draft Baronga Golgol Sporting Master Plan. You are wishing to move the recommendation, Councillor
I'll move
Nichols?
this council endorses the draft Baronga Golgol Sporting Master Plan and place it on public exhibition.
Councillor Rodder will second that. Does anybody wish to speak for the motion? Anyone wish to speak against?
I will speak for the motion, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
You may.
I think that part of our shire is growing rapidly, and the master plan has identified a significant shortfall in sporting and recreational facilities in that region. And even though when this goes on display, people see big numbers attached to it. It is a concept plan of best, to achieve the best for that part of the shire. And I think it's, we would encourage shire members to give feedback on it and to submit their ideas to it.
Thanks, Councillor Armstrong. Does anyone else wish to speak? Have a question? Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So in regards to the draft Baronga Golgol Sporting Master Plan, it was very exciting to see the concept plan earlier during a presentation. And again, I would like to reiterate what Councillor Armstrong said and suggest strongly that people have a look at that concept plan and provide feedback, because this is the opportunity for people in our municipality to have a facility that is going to be world class.
Thank you, Councillor Rodder. We'll go to Councillor Evans and then Councillor Nichols.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to endorse those comments by other councillors that I think it's a great opportunity to look forward and develop a plan that will work for the communities we're looking at across the whole shire, I might say, because it's this is Baronga Golgol, but it's in a very quickly developing area. And also I just encourage everyone to have their say. It's going out there to the public, and encourage everyone to have a look at it. Yeah.
Thank you.
And comment.
Indeed. Councillor Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. What has been said is absolutely correct. The plan will go out to the public. It will possibly take 20 years to evolve the whole of what we're looking at. It's a lot of money involved. However, to keep our residents and ratepayers in the facilities they need to have. These plans need to be made, they need to be looked at well in advance and working towards and onwards.
Thanks, Councillor Nichols. Councillor Starrick.
I was just going to say that, you know, in order to be able to apply for grant funding and get support from external sources, we need to have a well thought out plan to put before that, and that's what this provides us with, is that template that we can start working from. So we need to make sure that it's meeting the needs of the community and that we're getting the community engaged in that. So that's important.
Thank you very much indeed. Yes, I think we all recognise it's a very aspirational document. It's a warts and all approach in terms of costings, but I think that we put a stake in the ground and say this is what the community wants. It is based on data and research, and I for one was convinced when I saw pickleball. I've never heard of it before, but so having said that, Councillor Crisp, do you have anything you wish to offer?
No, Mr Mayor, I think councillors have already said what needs to be said.
Thank you. I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Thanks, that's carried unanimously. Okay, item 9.9, disclosure of interest returns. We have a recommendation there for noting and tabling. Councillor Elston, seconded Councillor Evans. Any questions? Put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Item 9.10, Community Engagement Strategy. We have a recommendation that Council adopt the revised Community Engagement Strategy. Moved by Councillor Rodder, seconded Councillor Armstrong. Does anybody wish to speak for the motion? Against? Councillor Chris.
Mr Mayor, what I want to do is acknowledge the work done by the General Manager, the Executive Assistant and staff in getting around our communities and managing those forums. I think they've done an excellent job, and the report further enhances that work.
Thank you. It is a big body of work, but very important so that we can represent the community desires. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Item 9.11. Proposal to local heritage list the wow tree at Australian Inland Botanic Gardens. Very exciting. We have a recommendation there.
I shall move A, B and C.
A, B and C. Yes, thank you. Seconded. Sorry?
Just with a comment that a lot of work by the look of it being completed to get a 2,500-year-old tree on the heritage list.
They say it's like an iceberg. It's more impressive under the ground than above, but very important. You're seconding Councillor Rodder, indeed, as the council representative on the Australian Inland Botanic Garden Committee. Does anyone wish to speak? Councillor Rodder.
Thank you. So I'd just like to congratulate everyone on the work that's gone into to listing this amazing piece of Australian flora on the register, and encourage people to, if you haven't been to the gardens, to go there and have a look at it. Watch this space for further works that will be undertaken at the garden going forward.
Well said, because when you see the wow tree, it's not the only time you'll be saying wow. That place is worth a visit. Anyone else wish to speak or have a question?
I was going to make something facetious about what they do with old people.
No facetiousness this evening, Councillor Nichols. I'm going to put the motion. I'll remind councillors that as this is a planning matter, the vote will be considered a division and all those for and against will be recorded. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Item 9.12, the draft Wentworth Shire Council Community Participation Plan. And this is another one where we're seeking council endorsement for this plan to be placed on public exhibition. Councillor Armstrong, as printed.
Sorry, no, Mr. Mayor. I would, as printed, except for on exhibition, I would suggest 40 days, given that we are coming into Christmas, a New Year period. Is that okay, Director?
Yeah, 28 is the minimum, so we can do it.
Just because we're coming into that time when people are away, so just to give fair consultation period to the community, I think.
And not searching through websites for endorsed draft documents. Okay. Councillor Starrick would like to second that, so that is moved for 40 days. Anyone wish to speak for? Against? Question? All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Crisp.
A comment. I noticed that we have a participation plan for community consultation. What do we have to assist applicants in engaging with council? It's a question for another day, but it's on my mind that we're very good at community consultation, but assisting applicants is something that I'd like to put on the agenda for future discussion.
Thanks, Councillor Crisp. Noted. Okay, I'll put the vote. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Jog along to item 9.13 on page 319, transfer of Crown land, section of Arumpo Road at Baronga. So moved Councillor Nichols, seconded Councillor Starrick. Anyone wish to speak for the motion? Against? Anyone have a question? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That is carried unanimously. Item 9.14. This item was subject to a public forum, as you'll recall, upgrade to existing boat mooring. Would someone like to move a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councillor Crisp.
I move that this matter lie on the table, allowing council to seek clarification from fisheries around some of the issues raised by the proponent earlier on their amended plans.
Thanks, Councillor Crisp. So the motion is to lay on the table. Councillor Armstrong, you're indicating you're seconding the motion. Thank you. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Does anyone wish to speak against?
I have a question.
Question from Councillor Rodder.
Mr. Mayor, please. So if we lay the matter on the table, does that what does that mean for the person who made the application if they subsequently have fisheries approve that this recommendation will come back, or it will come back to council and then the officer will have the opportunity to look at it again and potentially there be a different recommendation?
There's potential, councillor, that if the concurrence fishery was gained based on the information provided to you in the public forum, it can be approved under delegated authority. It's with you because it's a refusal, and then the concurrence couldn't be gained. If it was overturned and the fisheries concurred for the development, it could be handled under delegated authority.
So then it may not come back if we go with Councillor Chris. Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
So laying on the table, is it, you're saying deferred?
Essentially.
Seeking that clarification from fisheries in line with the presentation heard earlier on today.
For a non-specified period of time. Thank you. Any further discussion? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Item 9.15. Land use for a standing vehicle coup arrest stop. We have a recommendation for refusal. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Rodder.
So I move that we go with recommendation A and B.
Thanks. Is that seconded? Councillor Armstrong. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Councillor Rodder.
So in regards to the locations where vehicles may operate from, I think although outside of this agenda item, I think that there's an opportunity there for council to revisit those locations at another meeting. I'd like to have that put on the agenda, please.
Thanks, Councillor Rodder. Anyone wish to speak against?
No, probably just a comment. This was brought to council some years ago, and it was a council decision. That's where they be, so it could be brought back and we look at them. That's my understanding.
Sure. Yes. Thank you. I have a question. It makes mention in the report that O'Donnell Park is an approved location, less than 3 kilometres, but that wouldn't cater for truck parking, which is the subject of the Curl rest stop. And it also mentions in the detail that you're limited to 1 vendor per location. So is that at any one time, or is 1 vendor locked into 1 location?
The occupation of a site is based on an application.
Yep.
So it's only saying that there's 1 there at any particular time. So with respect, an operator could apply to be there tomorrow, and
Yes.
another operator could apply there to be the next day.
Yeah, right. So it's not one into the exclusion of all
It's not
others.
not sole occupancy by 1 operator.
Thank you. Anyone have any further questions? Councillor Crisp?
Yes, because yes, I do, and it's regarding what's happening at O'Donnell Park. For several years, there was a food van there regularly. I've not seen it there for some time. Do we have any indication what SCADs are up to, whether they are just temporarily not at the site, or whether they have got business elsewhere? And I know it's a question that's difficult to answer, but I'm just wondering whether the council has had any indication about the usage of the O'Donnell site.
Trying to sell it last time I heard.
Probably not for public disclosure, but it's personal information attached to their business plan, and we'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anything further on this item? Councillor Armstrong.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just in support of the motion and the recommendation, I agree. As much as I generally don't agree with Transport for New South Wales, I do agree with their recommendation on this. That where that rest area is, it is a 100-kilometre-hour zone coming out of a corner. Even coming to tonight's meeting, a hay truck pulled out of there in the opposite way to the direction I was travelling, but on my side of the road. So I, just from that safety point of view on that stretch of road, that's why I support the motion.
Thank you. All right, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Oh, yes, sorry, councillors. As this is a planning matter, I remind you that this vote will be taken as a division and all votes will be recorded for and against. Those in favour? Thanks, carried unanimously. Thank you, Gail. Okay, item 9.16. This item, as we know, subject to some discussion during the public forum. This is for land use approval for an existing dwelling in Wentworth, and we have a recommendation for approval. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Armstrong.
I would move the recommendation as written.
Thank you. Is that motion seconded? Councillor Elstone. Thank you. Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Or reserve their right?
I'll speak for the motion, Mr. Mayor. This particular item, this DA, is for, as presented to us in the application, is for residential use of the building that is constructed there. For residential use of the building that's constructed there, and as has been presented to us and commented in the legal advice council has received, that is permitted. So I would move the motion.
Thanks, Councillor Armstrong. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Rodder.
Thank you. Rather than speak directly against the motions, I would like to amend the general conditions, the draft conditions of consent, to include or to preclude the operation of a home office from that
Just
facility.
furnish us with a page number, please, Councillor Rodder.
527, 526 and 527. So the occupation and ongoing use does not include or currently preclude the applicants from operating a home office from that facility.
Okay, I'll just seek some guidance from the General Manager in terms of amending conditions.
Yeah, I'd really need to look at the land use table. You can't be contrary to the land use table, so whatever's permitted with consent is as such. So, in a way, the rural zone, I'll just need to confirm that the nominated recommendation or a modification by Councillor Rodder is not contradictory to the land use zoning table.
Yeah, sorry. So you haven't actually. You're not proposing an amendment at this point. You're asking a question about whether
just a condition.
Can change a condition.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I need to look at the land use table and just ensure that it doesn't contradict that as such.
So, Councillor Rodder, we'll just have to accept that as an argument against at this point, unless you're planning on moving an amendment.
I would request that my vote against this DA be recorded.
Well, every vote will be recorded. Does anyone else wish to speak for the motion? Any further speakers against? I'll put the motion. Those in favour? And I'll remind councillors that as a planning matter, this will be considered a division and all votes for and against will be recorded. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Councillor Rodder against, and the motion is carried. We'll now move to item 9.17, land use approval of existing hangars and transport depot in Wentworth, and we have a recommendation for approval. So I ask if someone would move a motion. Councillor Starrick has moved. As before,
I mean, it's had iterations of transition zoning from LEP 1993 to 2011. It's always been rural zone with an overlay over it to permit the development as it's happened in the suburb.
So the belief that there is a classification of residential versus commercial on the land isn't in alignment with the definition of the land zone.
It's zoned RE1, private production land. You asked me a question in relation to residential. It's not a zoned residential area. It's a rating category of large lot residential, but it's not a zoning residential.
Thanks, Councillor Starrick. Any further questions? Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, it's not a question. I'd like to speak against them.
Oh, indeed, yes. Would anyone like to speak against the motion? My apologies. Councillor Rodder.
So having sat on the last term of council, this matter has been ongoing without resolution. So to answer Councillor Starrick's question, so I think the confusion comes in because when the original lots were advertised for sale, it was promoted as being residential. So even though it's a RU1 primary production zone, that's how it was sold. So the original plan, from my understanding, was that there was to be a change of that zoning by council, which did not occur, which has now left us in a situation which is it doesn't matter what decision council make, somebody's going to be unhappy. So I think that a resolution of this matter should be undertaken as a matter of priority by this council to resolve the matter once and for all. And I think I mentioned in the last term of council that it would be good to have people come to the table and work through some of these issues to get a satisfactory resolution. I don't believe that council approving this application is going to do that.
Thanks, Councillor Ryder. Does anyone else wish to speak for the motion?
I'll speak for the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As a council, we're required to legally consider the application before us, which is for the use of 2 hangars to store aircraft in, which seems to me to be a pretty sensible use of land adjoining an airport. There's been arguments made in the public forum about the nature of the use of this land. That's not what is before us. Before us is the application to use the hangars for the storage of aircraft. I think it's important that we consider that, right? That we're thinking about a block of land next to an airport. It would seem logical that we allow for aircraft to be stored at an airport. Some of the objections, the logical extension of some of these arguments is problematic. In what do we then, as a council, allow people to do with their work vehicles stored in their own private property that they're generating income from? So I think we should consider the application in front of us and what we're required to do, and consider that what logical implications voting this down could have on other things that have occurred or will occur in the Shire.
Thanks, Councillor Armstrong. Does anyone else wish to speak against the motion? Does anyone have a question? Councillor Evans.
Comment, Mr. Mayor. Just I concur with the sentiment of Councillor Rodder. It's a situation where we are, and I also concur with Councillor Armstrong's argument there, or for the DA approval. Looking at this, we're not probably focused on the amenity so much as what specifically is allowed, and that's where the information we have here indicates that, and we've recommended the recommendation. It is, I guess, we have to be focused on what we are doing and what at the decisions we make, and it may or may not be resolved in the future. We don't know that, but this today, I think, is something we have to look at seriously as the information we have in this matter.
Thanks, Councillor Evans. Just a quick question, just from reading through the reports that were provided. Essentially, question to you, General Manager. We're looking at a depot, which is a permissible use on RU1 land, and issues around commercial activity have been rebutted in the sense that there'll be no, if the application states that there'll be no public access to this area of land to conduct any commercial activity. That's the basis on which we're assessing this?
Yes. Yeah. In essence, it's exactly that. The depot component is a storage facility, and the commerciality is accessing by the public. The advice that we've received in conjunction with the application, that's a commercial aspect which won't be permitted. The accessibility of the public upon the land to access the area is not, takes away the commerciality of it.
Thanks, General Manager. Anyone else have any further questions or comments? Okay, I'm going to put the motion, and as it is a planning matter, I remind councillors that this vote will be considered a division, and all votes for and against will be recorded. Those in favour? Those against? Thank you, Councillor Rodder against. The motion is carried. Okay, item 9.18. The
Recess.
Recess, or would you just like to? Okay, Councillor Rodder is moving a quick adjournment for 5 minutes. Seconded. Thank you. All in favour? Thanks. Thank you. Item 9.18, concept design for the replacement kiosk at Wentworth Showgrounds. Someone like to move? Councillor Armstrong, as printed.
As printed, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Evans. Does anyone wish to speak for the motion? Or against? Councillor.
I won't speak against it. I'll just question the situation with the bricks that were going to be donated. General Manager might be able to give us an update on.
Yeah. It was designed done to accommodate under the serveries and what else, and a brick barbecue. That was met with a level of dissatisfaction with the donor. There was further talk about additional bricks and a high quality standard, but it really wouldn't accommodate the costing to achieve the project outcome at a date for which, if we don't move forward, I think June 30 is the money's got to be spent and acquitted. So we did try to sort of mediate the bricks of donation to be under the serveries and the construction of a brick barbecue, but it wasn't received with the fullest of acceptance.
Not happy, in other words.
That is correct.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Rodder.
The design that's presented in the attachment 1, so that will no longer be the case then?
I think it still will be the case as such, but the dome wanted it to be a fully brick and sort of courthouse type construction. Or was the offer of the bricks withdrawn? Does anyone know that? Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, Ken.
Are the bricks still on offer if we go with the shed type construction, the brickwork underneath the serveries and the, or has that offer been withdrawn?
I think that was to be the subject of the discussion between the offerer of the bricks and the general manager's office. So I don't know that he's had that discussion with
The desire of the donor was to have a larger brick type structure in line with the architectural history of the courthouse. For the sake of this discussion, Councillor, I'm saying it is being built in accordance with those plans.
Yeah, well, the report as printed still refers to the use of the bricks for non-structural elements. So, if we take it as read at this point, they're in the plan.
So the from my understanding, the structure that would have been proposed from the donator of the bricks could not be accommodated both within the available funding for the project and had all the other associated issues in line with those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and particularly item 6 with regards to those particular issues there. So I think I concur with the General Manager's, it's as per the design.
It's a compromise scenario in effect.
It's a compromise scenario.
It's a nod to the donor and it's not going to satisfy the original.
And should the donor still not wish to go with the compromise design, it would be still the exact design, just with the removal of the brickwork because they're just they're decorative in nature only.
Thank you. Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So having sat with the Penkerry user group on the upgrading of their part of their facility up there under the same funding scheme, so have the Wentworth Showgrounds users group provided input into this, and will they be kept informed along the way?
Users groups have been consulted all the way through with regards to this particular project, as has been ongoing for quite a while and gone backwards and forwards with regards to this. So yes, they have had significant input into the design and improvement.
It looks like a very similar layout to what's currently already in existence. Would that be correct?
Not having been in the whole layout, but I would suggest you probably correct there.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? The motion, those in favour? Those against? Sorry, was there a vote against?
No.
No. Okay, carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.19, the project and works update for December 2024. Yep, thanks. Moved Councillor Nichols, seconded Councillor Rotter. And you have a question, Councillor
I have
Nichols.
several questions, Mr Mayor. I'm a little bit perturbed when I look at the water and sewer Virunga pump station number 1, urgent repairs. Why have we only ordered 1 pump and 2 are damaged? That's one question. Water and sewer, then we go to the other works that the dead and sewer pump, have they been done? And I'll go back to the water in Adam Street. The water in Adam Street, and you're looking at the caravan park, so you're looking for people who are coming in, obviously. I think we need to escalate all those areas and have a look, because we have $16.5 million sitting in trust there, and we have people with problems that are only going to get worse as it gets hotter. So I think we need to look at with a lot more quickness at what we're doing at lining pumps and things. And it was just said before that we had 5 lots of pumps, 5 lots of areas that blew up since the last council meeting, and I can see this happening more and more and more. And unfortunately, water and sewage things that we cannot fiddle around with. Simply cannot. We've got the money there. Let's do what we can do as quick as we can get it done.
Yeah, probably just in answer to the question with the Virunga pump station. Yeah, so there's a couple of different size pumps, 2 large pumps, a smaller one. But as you can see by the comments in there, we suffered significant damage from foreign objects. Yes, so you know, we're talking about, as the guys are talking about there, rope, cut timber, all that sort of stuff. So how that is being has gone into the sewer system, you know, your guess is as good as mine. So pumps are really they're not going to react well to those things. So we do have some spares, obviously, on the way to be. So they both the pumps for Wentworth and the ones for Virunga are due for delivery this week. I'm not sure that the installation will be in prior to Christmas, but that will be organised to be done ASAP as soon as contractors and staff are available. The Adam Street duplication water main is actually the water mains. It was installed and completed a couple of days ago. There was a water shutdown last night in the middle of the night for a short period of time to install the valve, and tomorrow will be a shutdown, which will only then, by the installation of that valve, we only affect about 4 or 5 residents tomorrow for a short period of time to do a cutover, and that will have the increased water supply for the caravan park completed by Thursday.
Well, that's the reason I asked previously where the five problems you had were that you reported, because we know that every time something blows in Wentworth, and I'm almost prepared to bet me boots that 4 of them probably would have been Wentworth, that we're behind it all the time, and we shouldn't be waiting. We should be progressing a lot more quickly than we are. And if we're sleeving them, let's sleeve them and get the things in there, because the pipes around here, it doesn't matter wherever you look, if you drive around, there's holes all over the place, and it's because of blowouts and things.
Thanks, Councillor Nichols. Councillor Rodder, then Councillor Starrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, through the GM to Director Gunn, if I may, so at while the maintenance guys are in Baronga, when you come out of the midway and you look to the right, there's a plant growing in the garden there, which actually looks like it's not supposed to be as part of that planting bed, which actually restricts view of traffic, oncoming traffic. Would it be possible to get that taken out, please? So short people like moi, very difficult to see around that one.
So just to clarify,
you're up the highway.
Yeah. So when you come past the Midway Centre to the highway, look to the right. Yeah, there's a bush there growing in the garden.
Declaring a conflict.
Declaring a conflict, absolutely.
Thanks, Councillor Rodder. Does anyone else have any questions for Director Gunn and his report? Okay, we'll go Councillor Evans, Councillor Starrick, Armstrong, Rodder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just running through this, the caravan park here. A question about the playground. Is that solely for the caravan park now, or does it have public access? That's just
starts public access.
Public access on the other side.
Yeah.
And the rectification of water pipes, that seems to on the car heads. Then I look back, I think there's rectification in main power, main water supply to the park. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what we just talked about with regards to Adam Street.
Adam Street, yeah, that's right. So that's part of it, but there's obviously some issues within the park itself in terms of water flow.
No. The essentially there was some water saving devices that are installed as part of the normal installation.
Oh, right. Yep.
However, our overall flow and pressure probably, so there was a number of things that we put in place to improve that, which was removing some of the what you would call water saving devices and the duplication of the water main to the park. So no issues with work in the park with regards to water and sewer or anything like that.
The other one was, I see, management of outstanding contract defects. I've only heard it secondhand, but there's some subsidence in the pavement, but according to the person that communicated it, and I have no contact with anyone at the caravan park, but I heard some subsidence across the roadways where the pipe services are being placed. I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is, that sounds a bit concerning.
That would be like any of the crossings, like council
could be made.
Or council undertook the road pavement, so all the services and stuff were obviously, and the road crossings were installed well before we got to the road stage. So they were all supervised and surveillance and third-party verified with compaction tests prior to the council undertaking the roadworks. So happy to.
I think there is a remediation section where there's a depression.
So happy to follow up on that.
So it's only a second-hand news to me, but
not obviously it's not desirable, but not uncommon either.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Evans. Councillor Starrick.
Just with regard to the 3G to 4G upgrade, has there been any interruption to the signal at the water and wastewater?
No, not as such. We all the ones that were affected were dealt with prior to this. There are still requirements going forward with regards to our communications and SCADA setup. for critical communications between water and wastewater assets. Our main concern with regards to 3 and 4G is probably our phone communications in the external areas of the council at the moment. Not so much with regards to this.
Thank you very much.
Probably just one, if that's okay. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Then I'm scooting across here.
No, it's all right, Greg.
Okay.
Councillor Evans, go first.
Councillor Evans.
Sorry, I'm picking this up. But I'm just wondering I'm looking at the pump failure from the pump station failure, and obviously there's a problem with gross pollutants in the pumps. Is there any opportunity to, I don't know, I'm not familiar with sewer systems, but is there an opportunity to filter out with some sort of gross pollutant filter that can stop this stuff going through the pump itself?
I
don't know. I've seen some of them, but
I think as we've talked about there, I think our first port of call would be to through our Facebook and social media and the like, is to promote a little bit more of an education with
we've seen ropes, chains, and cut timber going through the pumps. It's a bit
it's that's highly unusual.
I mean, you'd think if there's something outside, that stuff would only stick on it, so then it would burn itself out anyway. I'm imagining some sort of mesh to stop it from going into the pump. One would think if it was there, all the broken stuff would be stuck on the mesh. And it would burn
they have in Mildura, like the stormwaters use a gross pollutant trap, and they're kind of a thing that lets the water through, but catches in catchment area the rubbish that goes through. It's just a thought.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Evans.
Happy to follow up on any other options that might be out there for sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Armstrong.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just while we're on Baronga Pump Station, is that pump well sealed? Is it covered? I know the one at Dead and Dawn Avenue, Dead and Dawn Avenue there for a long time was uncovered. The pump well there. Just want that Baronga pump well.
Oh, that's well and truly covered.
Yeah,
good. Secure enclosure covered. There's a building and underlying around there.
No, good. I was also trying to work out how these gross pollutants got in their sewage system. I guess my next question is just around the road maintenance, particularly local roads and the highway. Are we working with the contractors around the material we use when we're doing the spray seal stuff? Once it starts to warm up, that stuff gets very liquid, and we seem to not have longevity of those repairs. Is that something we can work with the contractor?
Yes, I think you might be referring to repairs that were done properly in the last couple of months, and I think there's a number of patches through Baronga and Golgol. So that was done in conjunction with Transport for New South Wales, and an approved treatment process through a subcontractor. There was, I believe, whether it's not a part, well, it is a part failure because it was an incorrect bitumen application rate at the time. So once it's down, it's their responsibility to come back and obviously provide the follow-up treatment with regards to the stone. So there was a number that did bleed. They were treated at the time, but I think maybe even days like Monday this week, there was probably going to be a couple there that have got excess binder that will probably continue to do that, maybe in the short period, but as soon as the more and more stone that gets added to it, and the longer the time, the volatiles will go out of the bitumen, and it will settle down. So unfortunate, but issues beyond our control and dealt with like defects liability.
Yeah, I only ask because I noticed this has happened the last few years when the same contractor's done the work, we end up with the same result? Or the same work has been done, right?
Oh, yeah, different
spray
contractors.
seal.
Yeah, so probably, different contractors. So we had leading roads this time last year. Wentworth Road, River Road. And yeah, so there was a couple of different issues there. Was one was similar, was inappropriate application rate, and I think one there was actually was either a failure of those parts of the jets on the spray bar or something that obviously didn't show up until the first one. You can tell now both of those roads didn't bleed on Monday and have taken up with it. So it's not uncommon, like, and road pavements vary and the application rates vary for, wheel paths that are flushed up and then others that are not. Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Rodder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just in regards to the previous item, we approved the project for the Wentworth Camp Kitchen, and then in the project update, it's got that we will have to go back to them considering that Kerry came in over budget.
Yeah, I think time of writing the works report in front of the previous report, which was put in following that.
When will the Pooncarie user group be consulted on the scope of changes? Will that be at a meeting or will it be via email? Are they aware of this at this stage?
For the Pooncarie group, there's been a number of specific consultations with relevant people in the group to get a report to match the budget, and I think that's just about to a point where it'll be disseminated to all the users prior to going.
Please ensure that I'm on that email list because I seem to have missed out on a few of those. Thank you. Now, just in regards to the caravan park, so management of outstanding contract defects. So, anecdotally, I was advised that that there's an issue with the sewer, that it actually one of the abolition blocks is not able to be used because there's a problem with the sewer. It flows the wrong way under the ground, and that there's significant rectification works required, and that the contractor who undertook the works on that abolition block actually left the cap off the end of the sewer pipe, and there was sewage pouring out underneath that block.
Don't know about the last point that you had there. Certainly all installation of every underground service was verified and third party checked with council prior to haunching and backfill. So I don't believe that would be the case. In fact, I'll be pretty confident that that's not the case. As everything with subdivisions and the like is always a third-party verification on fall and particularly with sewer because it is gravity system, and that was definitely the case for the caravan park. I'm unsure about what has been left off or what has happened.
If in fact that information is correct and the sewer is at the wrong angle and it needs to be relayed, which will come at significant cost and cause disruption to the operation of that facility. So do we have any opportunity to go back to the person who certified that and say, hey, this should never have been certified?
Oh, yeah, certainly do. But I'm unaware of any of these issues. And I would have thought usually if there's issues, not that I have personally had any supervision or managerial or project management input into the caravan park for obvious reasons, but I certainly have not had anything, and I've not been made aware of anything of outstanding issues with regards to the build. Could very well be with the manager of engineering, but I'm unsure of it.
I'll just make a partial comment. There has been a notification of it's not in the ground. The strapped up drainage underneath the ablution block let the water seal go. Basically, there was meant to be a 15-degree rolled over junction connected to a 45, which puts a water seal over the top, and that's just been rectified as we speak. So there was an issue, but it wasn't in the ground, and it's pretty much Mr. Barnes has coordinated the rectification of that through the contractor that undertook the work.
Beautiful. Thank you. And further to that, so I assume that seeing as though we've still got some outstanding contract defects, that the contract has not yet been signed.
Contract has been signed on an agreement that there's an outstanding list of maintenance issues that will be rectified.
Fantastic. If I could just ask one more question, please, not regards to the caravan park, but I notice with interest Pink Lake has dropped off the projects list. Can you please provide an update on that?
Anything you'd help me out with there, Jeff?
I think we're still at a standstill with regards to
land tenure and having the land claim.
Yes.
Did wonder if that was the case.
Yeah, the project hasn't dropped off the radar, but I think there's got to be some Crown lands and Aboriginal land claim issues sorted out to progress.
Thank you. Does anyone have any further questions? No, thank you. I'll just mention that I notice in record time, it's incredible, the lighting has been installed at the George Gordon Oval in the Wentworth district.
Yes, yeah,
I'm
completely.
very excited and thankful to council, and particularly single out Scott Barnes for his help there. So thank you, engineering team.
If I can just say one more thing, please, Mr. Mayor. So, having travelled with the GM and the Mayor to the official opening of the Pinkeri Menindee Road, I would just like to offer my congratulations to all of the guys team who worked on that road, because it was it's very speaking.
It's the best in the West, Councillor Otter.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favour of this report being accepted, thanks, that's unanimous. We'll move on to item 10, notices of motion and questions with notice. Item 10.1, Pinkeri Learn to Swim Facility. There is a motion. Do I have a mover? Councillor Elstone is moving his
Thank you,
motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Seconded, Councillor Armstrong.
I'm happy to move it and to speak to it. I'll give a brief background there. I'm proposing that we go out and just see what grant funding, what we may or may not be able to source, with a view to down the track, if council's supportive, that we get back together with the community and make a decision on what shape, size, type, whatever. I did get a couple of indicative things which I've handed around from Cooks with a couple of various sizes. But I think the history of the river, and if you could have seen, or if you did see the photo of the Darling River on Monday at Wilcannia, it is disgraceful. And sadly, I'd say that's the future for the bottom end of the Darling. So if we can source some funding, there's also a list being sent out to Savi of 50 children under the age of 10, so there's certainly demand for it up there. We heard it at the CSP. Give it every time I go up there, so it's certainly something worth pursuing on behalf of the community who've requested it. So hence the motion. Not going to nominate a contribution figure. I suggest let's see what we're going to find and discuss at the end.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Councillor Elstone.
certainly endorse that. Councillor Elstone supported that because I was up there today at the end of year concert, and on behalf of
your kids, isn't it?
and I might say I did mention that at the in my little speech and on behalf of Mayor and Council and staff, and wish them all the very best for the year. And I also said their succession plan is working well, because the children, it's quite eye-opening to see. It's exciting to see that little community really going well, and having and I think the swimming pool is just an absolute necessity up there.
Another good spring drop.
Yeah.
Councillor Nichols, I'll come to you just after Councillor Rodder.
Okay.
I think you had your hand up.
Yep, I do. Thank you. So I've just got a question in regards to, although I support the motion, at times we struggle to have clean water for people to drink up there. How are we going to manage
Yes,
that?
so part of the indication or going to Cook's after a discussion with Ken was that we want all the bells and whistles, so we basically don't have to touch it. The water quality in a pool will soon tidy up, but it's maintaining it, and hence that might reflect in the price a bit, I'd imagine. But
So if we pull water out of the river and put into the pool, we can add
you
it
put
treat
more
that.
water in it. I pumped water into mine when it was first built, straight out of the river. It was brown.
Through the filter as you go, as you're filling. Filled slowly and through the filter.
So does that remove the blue-green algae?
Oh, yeah, chlorine and everything will just
Clean it all right up.
clean it right up. So it's maintaining it, and that's why I say to ask for the bells and whistles is the way to go, because a lot of them this day and age, you don't have to touch them.
Self-chlorination, self-cleaning mechanisms in a pool of that size is pretty common.
Someone might go and do a water sample once a week or something.
I'll just add before we go to Councillor Nichols that there's been a bit of due diligence done in terms of insurance, obtaining insurance and so on for this sort of facility, and that's all very positive. Councillor Nichols.
Yes, looking at this here, I see where Central Darling have put some details of how they operate. I don't know why we haven't asked Angela and Oyen, both Mildura City Council pools, because
Well, we're not in Victoria, and Central Darling's our neighbouring shire, and that's the only spot I knew where to go. So
they've done it for years,
yeah,
along with costs and so on and so forth.
more the merrier if there's more of them. That's just an example of
Angela, community pool's been run for a long time, and so is Oyen.
so they just got a swipe card system or something like that.
No, they have people standing there,
Oh.
I believe, because, I mean, like all pools, you're supposed to have lifeguards.
No.
So that's different with Ivanhoe.
Yeah.
White
The ones up in Ivanhoe and that are unmanned, but they have signage there.
Yeah.
It's like you're swimming in the river, so they have enter at your own risk and that type of signage. So
Yeah, and I think Whitecliff's you got to sign away.
Yeah, so just good point of clarification. We're not
Established
seeking to
models
send
for-
staff up there to supervise. Anyone else have any questions? I'd just like to put on the record that commend the advocacy of Caitlin Hickey, who's put together very compelling arguments for the need for this sort of facility, and the PADA
girls
people and the community of Pooncarie. So well done for chipping away at this project. If there's nothing further to discuss, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, can I have another say? I was handed the letter as I walked in. If you prefer it to be held over, or you want to have a look at elsewhere, but it is a fairly good assessment and a fair whinge of the couple of squatters that we've got around the town at the moment, and what are we doing or what are the police doing?
I didn't hear
Sorry, that's a
Squatters.
It's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, right.
I think I might take that one on notice and report back.
All right. I shall slide that up to you, but I did tell him I would table it if it permitted.
Thank you, Councillor Elstone. So in terms of notices of motions for you, one from one.
Oh man, that's wonderful one.
That's a.
I like that.
We'll move on to questions with notice, and just for an abundance of procedural caution, I'm going to seek a mover and seconder that we note these, and I suggest the mover should be the person who put the question. So the first one, 10.2, rating for rural lots with regard to 4.6 variations. It's a question from Councillor Nichols. So moved. Someone second that? Councillor Elstone. Okay. Do you?
Yeah, look, it gave me the answer. It's one of those things, though. It's interesting to see that we've had 8 virtually in 4.5 months. So, and my comment made originally was we'll have more and more and more of these wanting to seek riverfront or waterfront areas with getting close to the river.
Okay. Yep. So there's a response there. Okay. Will those in favour of accepting the response to the question? Thanks. That's carried unanimously. Move on to item question with notice 10.3, integrated water cycling management plan. This is my question. I'll move it just with the simple comment that there'll be those in the room with more history with regards to this than me, and it definitely seems to be an issue that just, for a variety of reasons, continues to get kicked down the road. But in terms of receiving the strategic document, it appears that we can expect that we can keep the pressure on here with our consultant to ensure that it does come into the market, because there's been many questions on this last term as well. I think we're nearly there. I just hope we do get there. Could I have a seconder? Thanks, Councillor Elstone.
Has the I don't know whether what you said answers the question. Has the work will it be completed by the 20th December, which is 2 days hence?
Yeah, that's I guess a follow up. That it's indicated here that bit will be done before Christmas, and the other component will be done in January. So, I take that on face value.
It actually says prior to the 20th December. It doesn't say before Christmas.
So, the report was obviously submitted a fortnight ago, so it may well be finished.
It may well
Director
be.
Gunn,
Sorry,
comment
with regards to which part finished?
the flock.
Cleaning of one of the lagoons.
Oh, the flock tank. I think the flock tank may have the lagoons.
Sorry, the lagoon cleaning.
The lagoon has not. Obviously, there was significant delays with the rain events, and obviously where the trucks and machinery have to get, and we've got a pump too. It was definitely delayed by us and the contractor. So, recent warmer weather will obviously put us back in a position where we can start again. It's not affecting the operation of the water treatment plant or anything like that. It's just where we rotate our ponds from over a certain period of time, and we're up to that point in time now to clean out pond number 1, and then once that's cleaned back out, we'll then transition and swap over again as part of the normal operation of the water treatment plant.
Yeah, I think this and the flock work was identified as something to maximise throughput for the coming summer. So,
yeah, and certainly the contractor is still in place. The quotation is still in place to do the clean out, but that definitely has not been underway because of that significant rain.
all right, thank you very much. All those in favour of accepting those responses, thank you. Councillor Evans. Carried unanimously. Thank you. Righto, we'll move into confidential business. If I could have somebody.
I think I can do this for you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, Councillor Crisp, thank you.
He's still there.
I move the council adjourns into closed session and the recording of the meeting be suspended and members of the press and public be excluded from the closed session, and that access to the correspondence and reports relating to the items considered during the course of the closed session will be withheld unless declassified by separate resolution.
Thanks, Councillor Crisp. Seconded by Councillor Elstone. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Now I'd like to invite the General Manager to report on the results of the confidential business, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In closed council business this evening, there was 10 items for deliberation and determination. In relation to item 12.1, it was recommended that council accepts the tender from William Adams Proprietary Limited for the supply and delivery of one Caterpillar 140 JOY3 motor grader for the sum of $584,650, including GST, as specified, and accepts the trade price of $126,500, including GST, for the council-owned Caterpillar grader. Plant item 10 with a total changeover price of $458,150. In relation to item 12.2, again, plant replacement, it was recommended and resolved by council to accept the tender from Rosnick Sales and Service Proprietors, hire and delivery of one Hino FG 1628 suction sweeper for the sum of $548,984.70, including GST, as specified, and accept the trade price of $159,500, including GST, for the council-owned Hino sweeper plant item 63, with a total changeover price of $389,484.70, including GST. Item 12.3, bridge lift and maintenance. It was resolved that council approved the contract variation of $6,900, including GST, being 15 bridge lifts over a month to extend the contract of the bridge lift maintenance procurement tender 22-2303 with Regional Power Services. Item 12.4, Wentworth Shire sewer rehabilitation works. It was resolved that, in accordance with the provision of the Local Government General Regulation 2021, Section 178(1)A, accepts the tender from In Situ Form Pacific Proprietary Limited, trading as In Situ Form, and subsequently authorise the Mayor and myself, the General Manager, to sign the contract document and affix a seal for the recommended contractor to carry out the work specified in procurement tender 242501 for $867,292 GST inclusive. In addition to the above contract award, it is recommended and resolved by council to approve the transfer of $450,000, including GST, from the Sewer Infrastructure Fund to the project, increasing 24-25 budget from $550,000 to $900,000, including GST. In item 12.5, the formation, drainage works, wet hire of earth moving, it was resolved that council, in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government General Regulation 2005, Section 178(1)A, accepts the tender from EWAG Proprietary Limited to carry out the formation, drainage work, wet hire of earth moving equipment, contract procurement tender 2425-02, as specified, in the amount of $852.50, including GST, per hour, and authorise the Mayor and myself as General Manager to sign the contract documentation and affix the council seal. Item 12.6, Altrincham Drive, Pinkerry Road and River Road stabilisation work was resolved at council in accordance with provisions of the Local Government General Regulation 2005, Section 178(1)A, accepts the tender from Stable Fix Proprietary Limited to carry out the stabilisation works as specified on Altrincham Drive, Pinkerry Road and River Road, contract procurement tender 2425-06, in the amount of $325,740, including GST, and authorise the Mayor and myself, the General Manager, to sign the contract documentation and affix the council seal. Item 12.7, panel contract additional suppliers. It was resolved that council approves the following supplier list to be included in the 23-24 panel contract for the next 2 years, based on the reasons permitted for missing the original application period, and those are Outback Cabins and Construction, Zonal Proprietary Limited, and Matt Hugo Contract Proprietary Limited. In relation to 12.8, consideration of the purchase of the land, 143 Silver City Highway, it was resolved by council to purchase lots 27, 34, and 48 in DP 756961, having an area of 11.48 hectares for the purchase of hosting the future Lower Western Zone Fire Control Centre Emergency Operations Centre, for a purchase price of $550,000. That council categorised the property as operational land in accordance with Clause 31 of the Local Government Act and authorised the Mayor and myself, the General Manager, to attach the council seal and sign all documentation on behalf of the council. In relation to item 12.9, we've tabbed it, shall we say? 12.9 Wentworth Overland Flood Study. It was resolved that council notes the report for engagement of Lyle and Associates to conduct the Wentworth Overland Flood Study in an amount of $166,900 excluding GST. Last item for consideration tonight is item 12.10 sewer pump station contribution. It was resolved that council commits $330,000 GST exclusive from the sewer fund to support the construction of the sewer pump station number 14 in Golgol with expenditure of $165,000 this next financial year and a further $165,000 in the 25-26 financial year. And further to that, apply appropriate funding calculations to future developments serviced by the sewer pump station number 14 in Golgol. And with that, councillors and the public, I wish you a Merry Christmas and thanks very much for the year to date and all the very best to you.
Thank you very much, Manager. You deserve a refreshment after that much reading. I don't know what the collective noun for 10 tenders is, but that's a lot of work that's been done to squeeze in before the Christmas break. So thanks to all the staff involved in that. Thank you, councillors and executive staff. It's been wonderful this year and particularly good to get to know our new councillors. Looking forward to working together next year. And on behalf of council and staff, I wish our community a wonderful and Merry Christmas and a safe and happy New Year. And that concludes our meeting, and we will meet again. Our next ordinary meeting is scheduled for the 12th of February. Thank you very much.